Welcome back to Tipping Point. I'm your host, Kara McKinney. For the third time now under Biden, Americans find themselves in active combat zones needing rescue. U.S. military officers speaking to The Messenger claimed that American special forces have been stationed in a nearby European country to conduct clandestine rescue operations should they get the green light from the White House to do so. The Post-Millennial adds to that saying, quote, "On Tuesday, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said that the U.S. has people on the ground to assist Israeli authorities with intelligence and planning for potential hostage recovery operations, and said that the Pentagon has a liaison cell in Israel working with the country's special operations forces, and that the U.S. has the ability to rapidly deploy other resources into the region." The officials did not say what kind of special operation forces were placed on alert, but indicated that the unit fell under the Joint Special Operations Command, under which the two main counterterrorism units that have historically undertaken hostage rescue missions are the Army's Delta Force and the Navy's SEAL Team 6. In a statement on Tuesday, U.S. Central Command confirmed that the USS Gerald R. Ford carrier strike group had arrived in the Eastern Mediterranean in order to deter any actor seeking to escalate the situation or widen this war. The forces in the area include the aircraft carrier 8 squadrons of attack and support aircraft, the Ticonderoga-class guided missile cruiser, USS Normandy, the Arleigh Burke-class guided missile destroyers, USS Thomas Hudner, USS Ramage, USS Carney, and USS Roosevelt, end quote. Now consider everything you just heard and recall what we talked about last week with this headline. The Army has plans amid its recruitment and retention crisis to make cuts to its famed Special Operations Forces, including to the Green Berets. The total number is about 3,000 troops, or about 10% of the Army Special Forces. A final decision is yet to be signed by Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, but the push and the momentum is for this to happen so that the Army can rebalance, they say, toward large conventional ground forces to prepare for a potential war in Asia against China. But like even the comedy movie The Princess Bride from 1987 was able to understand, you never fight a land war in Asia unless you want to lose. Think about it, parts of the government are gearing up for war with China. We've been funding a proxy war thus far against Russia, at the cost of depleting our military stockpiles, our strategic oil reserve, the undermining the U.S. dollar, and the rise of the BRICS coalition against us. All on the heels of the woke capture of our military and the purge of patriots through the vaccine mandate. Then add to that senators like Lindsey Graham and Marco Rubio wanting to exploit this horrific situation in Israel by widening the justified response of Israel against Hamas to now having the U.S. go to war with Iran and of genociding the civilians of Gaza. I get it. Iran was very likely behind Hamas on this, and Biden has a ring of pro-Iran spies inside his government. But like I said on Monday, go to war with what military? With what economy? And with what patriotism? The left has been selling that out for decades now. That's the real scandal of the Hunter Biden corruption case and others like it, such as Democrat New Jersey Senator Bob Menendez. They sell us out for money. That is what influence peddling means. You sell American foreign policy, our safety, to shady actors around the world so that U.S. foreign policy does not put America first, but instead puts first the interests of the highest bidder. Join us now to discuss is military defense attorney Davis Younts. Davis, thanks for being here tonight.
Hey, good evening.
Great. So the left turning our military into a giant woke social experiment is now really coming back around to bite us, would you say, as we have at least 22 dead Americans and an untold number more being held hostage by terrorists. But our special forces, we've been trying to hack away at that number now.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. The policy that's in place when we talk about our special forces doesn't make sense at all. We have a recruiting crisis going on in our military. We have a retention crisis. And rather than focusing on those key core assets that we need for a crisis like this in our special forces, we're talking about cutting special forces, lowering standards across the board, having a military that looks less fit and less ready for combat than otherwise. We have a military and political leaders within the military that emphasize diversity, equity, inclusion, and anti-extremism training instead of actually training our military forces to conduct combat operations. So you're right. Right now, we believe there are at least 22 American citizens who have been killed. That would make this potentially the 5th largest terror attack in our nation's history when we talk about deaths of civilians, and we have an untold number of hostages. What we need are ready, combat-trained, effective special operators to go in to kill the bad guys and rescue Americans